Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you all are not sleeping. Okay. We are from Benetech. Benetech is a not-for-profit based out of California. Our flagship project is Bookshare, and today we are going to speak about the role of assistive technology in inclusive education. Next slide, please. The government has already introduced the policy of inclusive education, right? But are we really sure of what, how, what to do? No. So, we will show you a little effort we have made, how we have made, and what we are doing. Next slide, please. What are the three pillars of universal design of learning? Do you all know? Writing, reading, and knowledge. So, does a visually impaired write the sighted way? Does he read the sighted way? No, not yet completely, right? So, now we'll give you a case and let us imagine there's this visually impaired child who goes to an inclusive school and how he's studying. Next slide, please. So, when we go to school, the first thing we are told by the teacher, make standing line, make sleeping line. I'm sure all the sighted people did that. But how are we going to explain to the visually impaired, make sleeping line, make standing line? We're not sure. And here, mind you, we are talking about the sighted way of writing and reading. Okay? Next slide, please. So, we'll take a case where, we'll take the apparatus of a magic slate, which they can use for making sleeping and standing lines. Next slide. Here, I'm sure he even learns how to hold a pen. Next slide, please. It's a video where the person is showing, trying to feel the shape as well as hold a pen the right way. Now, next slide, please. The next way is by putting the alphabets in his mind, creating a frame in his mind, the way A is written, the way B is written. Next slide, please. By using tactile books, we can create this picture in his mind. And to write, you can always use stencils to make him write the shape of an alphabet, for the simple reason that after he grows up in his life, he will have to do his signature for a full, completely usable bank account, right? And through this, we'll even show you how he becomes independent totally. Next slide, please. Now he has to learn shapes. He has learned standing line, sleeping line, geographical maps. He has to learn the shape of a square while he's learning math, geography. Next slide. It's a video where the person is feeling the shape. I'm telling this for the friends of mine who are visually impaired. Next one. Then this boy enters the middle school. Now he has to do something different. Here he meets his best friend. Now who is his best friend? Technology. Now the most used, if he can afford it, it's a laptop. And if he goes for a low cost, it could be a smartphone. And one good thing is, Jio has announced that it will come up with low-cost laptops pretty soon. So I don't think this should really be a problem. But we always have the smartphone. And this friend of his remains with him for the rest of his life. Next slide, please. Now he has to come to reading and writing. For reading, his problem will be solved very easily because he can get accessible textbooks either from Sugamya Pustakalaya, Bookshare, which has nearly 12 lakh plus books, or Amazon Kindle. The next is a presentation wherein we will be showing you how reading and writing is done the sighted way.
This meeting.
So you have seen how a toddler studies, or he will study in an inclusive environment using different tools such as Magic Slate or tactile books. This will give him the understanding of letters, shapes, and even maps. Now, imagine the student moves up in his education. He goes into the 5th grade or the 6th grade. Reading books becomes very important for the student. Let us see how a visually impaired student will read a book. Do you think a visually impaired can use a laptop? The answer is yes. Through an assistive technology called screen reader, he will be able to read books. Let us see how. So in front of you, there is a sample book which we have created for this presentation. Let us see how the student will be able to read paragraphs and sentences.
Heading Level 4.1. Historical Approach. Right from man's origin up to the present, man's relations with the natural environment have been dynamic.
So this is something called paragraph reading. The student can read an entire paragraph, or he can read sentences, lines, even words and characters. For example, if a student wants to know a spelling of a certain word, let's say origin, then
From man's origin.
Let us check the spelling of this.
O-R-I-G-I-N. November.
This will make the student's spelling stronger, and ultimately it will be beneficial when it comes to writing. His writing will be strong, he will be independent. In many of the books made for persons with disabilities, there are no images. Do you think a person with visual impairment can read an image or see an image? The answer is no. But with the help of screen reader and accessible books from Bookshare, he will be able to understand the image. Let us see how.
Main content heading Level 2. Image of children.
So here is an image. Let's see what it says. Open your ears and listen carefully.
Shark is walking with squid next to him. They are talking to each other. Squid says, "And I'm having too much fun squidding around to go to school."
By the description, I can easily understand that this image is taken from a comic book. So, a visually impaired student can visualize what the image is. He can read comic books. He can read books with images to make the reading more interactive. Moving on, you may say, oh, the screen reader will only read English then. But that is not the case. In our country, many special schools are in vernacular languages. So let us see a sample of where a screen reader reads Hindi.
Main content heading Level. Hindi sample heading Level 2. Heading Level.
बेरोजगारी आज पूरी दुनिया में चिंता का विषय है। कोविड महामारी के बाद भारत में भी बेरोजगारी की दर काफी भी, लेकिन साथ ही इस महामारी।
So you heard, even the Hindi voice was very clear, just like English. STEM is an area which is not taken by a person with visual disability. Blind students hesitate to take maths and sciences. Even if they like the subject, in some cases they are not allowed to take the subject. So with this accessible book and screen reader, they can even read mathematical expressions, chemical equations. Let us see that.
Main content heading, math sample heading,
Okay, let us see how a math equation is read using a screen reader.
clickable m squared plus 4/5 m plus 8.
M square plus 4/5 m plus 8. The student might not understand the equation in one go. Many of you also might have not understood what the equation is. So let us read this equation part by part or expression by expression.
M math, m squared
So the first expression here is m square
plus
plus
4/5 m.
4/5 m. Now what is this 4/5 m? The student might not know. So let us delve deeper.
4/5 in numerator 4,
So in numerator 4.
in denominator 5 m.
So now the student understood that, oh, it's a fraction where number 4 is the numerator and number 5 is denominator. So 4/5 m is basically 4/5 m. So in such detail, the student will be able to read mathematical equations. Similarly, he can also read chemical equation. Let us see how.
M clickable even chemistry equations can be read. Clickable H sub 2 O plus O sub 2, modified right arrow with heat above. CO sub 2 plus NH sub 4.
So this was the chemical equation where sub 2 meant number 2 is in the superscript. For example, H2O. So the 2 is in the superscript. So this solves the reading part. Let us move on to writing. Do you think a visually impaired student can write independently? The answer is yes. Let me open Word.
Taskbar. Word. Document page.
Oh, let me write a sample
F.
sentence.
I
am
giving
giving
N presentation in Empower 2. I am giving presentation in Empower 2022.
It is that fast, writing independently. You can also write math equations as easily as English.
Blunt.
Let us see.
Selected.
M
2 plus
4/5 m
4 slash 5 space M blank M squared plus 4/5 m.
The same equation I wrote in just seconds. Now you may say that not everyone can afford laptop, which is true. That is why there is something called Android device, which everyone has, right? So we can read even in Android phones.
Wireless what?
So this is an Android phone, and you can see there is a book displayed. Let us hear how the book is read.
Play button. Play pause. Pause. Introduction. The word architecture is derived from the Latin word tecton, which means builder. When the early man began to pause.
So the reading is even interesting in Android because the voice is much more clearer. The student will also be able to write using his Android phone just by connecting a physical keyboard to his phone using an OTG cable. So I have already connected my keyboard. Let's just write something.
Quick step. Notepad free.
So there is a simple application called Notepad Free, which is very simple.
Home screen 2 of 2. New note button. Notepad free. Enter text. Edit. Enter text.
Let me write
Showing English
something.
keyboard.
I am speech mode off.
Giving. Presentation. Using. Device. I am giving presentation using my Android device. Enter field.
So this is the writing becomes as easy as you're writing in your laptop. So this is how a student will read and write either using a laptop or an Android device.
Do you think now, is it difficult for a student to read and write? Can he not write his own exams? Can he not give his assignments to the teacher? Can anybody deny employment to this child who has studied in the school the inclusive way? Okay, I would like to tell you all that we have been doing this since the last 2 years across the country in many schools. And if, next slide please, and if anybody is really interested, can contact us on any of these numbers, email us. And one more thing is, Bookshare membership for the library is free for all people with print disability. Our helplines are on from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. So feel free to contact us if you're really interested in converting your school the same way as we've done quite some schools across the country. Thank you.